Having spoken on the concept of engagement as an idea and its relationship to art, and the idea that it is essentially the interaction of the user with an artistic piece, there is a particular quandary that I wish to speak on, which is the actual importance of art to the greater scale of things. To do this, I would like to point at an old story, an old Superman story to be exact. And I won't be talking about it in very specific tones, rather in broad strokes. Essentially, Earth is being evacuated. I believe it's either Earth is being evacuated or they're planning to colonize Mars. Either case, the prerequisite requirements have been met to require the humans of Earth to start anew on another planet. And so, the best engineers, the best scientists, the best athletes, the best X, Y, and Z across all disciplines are brought in. And while, again, it's something that's a little bit hard to quantify, but for the nature of the fable, let's say, they also grab the best artists. And this story, I was actually talking to someone who was waffling on whether or not they wanted to become an engineer or to become an artist. We were at a hair salon at the time. The person was a big fan of anime and all sorts of creative things. We had long talks about what was happening in the DC universe and the Marvel universe. This was long before the woke downfall. This was many moons back, actually. But I digress. He asked me, well, why is art important? And I brought up that statement of they brought the best artists. So the question then follows, well, wait, why do you need the best artists along with all of these others? Couldn't those others just create society on their own? And this query initially, at least, was like, well, wait, is art actually useful? I mean, the very existence of any piece, per our initial examinations, brings forth that question of why is this here? But the answer is embedded in the piece, is embedded in every piece. The reason why any piece of art exists is to be contemplated, is to, in fact, be contemplated. Sometimes for less than a split second, for something such as the sentence balls bounce, which one could argue isn't even really art, but I digress. Or something as open-ended as an abstract piece that doesn't really actually say anything. It's just kind of there, and it excites your mind and draws you in and causes you to think. That's the main purpose of art, is contemplation, at least in my 2 cents. Or at least, that's the intellectualization of it. There's also that aspect of producing feeling, the more if you're leaning into the stylistic angle of it. But art exists for those 2 reasons. To A, produce feelings and emotions, and to B, promote contemplation of concepts or ideas. And because of its pairing with style, that thing that draws you in and almost forces you to ask a question, it is actually capable of making people think who wouldn't normally do so. It draws them in, and suddenly they're asking themselves why they've been drawn in, and then they are interested in the piece and they start looking at it and understanding more or less things about it. And here's the most interesting bit, because engagement is a function of the user resolving the embedded question of style with the embedded answer of expression, it also causes the user to contemplate aspects of themselves. Sometimes it can even cause them to change. So in essence, art is useful because it promotes the contemplation of various ideas and concepts, some of which cannot even necessarily be put into words, and also promotes self-contemplation, because the very mystery of why the piece is there is almost less mind-boggling than the mystery of why do I care that this is here? And these particular elements of self-contemplation, these help with self-discovery. And this helps with the germination of new generations of, well, all of the other things. So when coming back to that statement of Superman is, in the Superman story, they're bringing the best of all of these different things to colonize Mars. And the question of why are the artists needed? The answer to that question is the artists are there to help continue the propagation of all of the other professions. With this contemplation and, dare I say, self-discovery that is promoted by these things. And remember, there are a large amount of things that can be considered as art. Even something such as the recording of a baseball game, after a fashion, that is considered art. It is, now granted, it is a regaling of events that have long since passed, and it might be lacking in stylistic acumen. But as soon as you put a radio jockey on there, shouting, "Braves win! Braves win! Ah!" Suddenly, it gets a little bit of artistic flair. It's got some emotion injected into it. We've got heroes operating in there, and perhaps villains, depending on how the losing team is viewed. But I digress. The importance of art is that it promotes contemplation of ideas and concepts, as well as the promotion of the contemplation of the self. Because how you are drawn to the pieces is something that you can analyze. And to be sure, even though I speak of it in such, I suppose, academic terms, academic way, it doesn't change the fact that self-contemplation doesn't necessarily happen in words. I dare say most elements of thought that aren't necessarily academic in nature, like a large portion of a thought that even if it's attached to a word is wordless, it's the meaning that the word is intended to encapsulate, and not all words encapsulate all forms of meaning. That's the conundrum that every literary artist runs into, is that they have to be accurate and such. with this in mind. That is all I have to say for today. I don't know if I'll have much more to speak on with regards to defining art and defining engagement, but if something crosses my mind, I'll consider ruminating on it and then pontificating at you about it. But for now, bye-bye.